Hi, it's me, Ingrid INFP, and I wanted to talk about spiritual experiences. And well, I will start this video by saying I am not the kind of person who has spiritual experiences, even as an INFP. I don't believe in God, and I highly doubt that a God exists. I do, however, think that there are things that we can't explain with science, and it would be nice to have some kind of explanation for these things. And it would also be nice to think that certain things cannot be explained by science. So I haven't really had many spiritual experiences, or any at all, really, to say the truth. But I would say that I've had 3 different spiritual experiences in my life. These aren't life-changing things, but they are things that did affect me. I don't believe in a lot of stuff that some INFPs believe. I don't believe in astrology. I don't believe in tarot. I don't believe in strange conspiracy theories, though I could see why I would, but I just don't. I think that it's much cooler to believe the truth, which is that we actually have gone to the moon, for example, or that 9/11 did happen. That kind of thing, those kinds of conspiracies, it's actually, the truth is actually more interesting than the alternatives. And sometimes, you just gotta listen to the facts. I believe in evolution. I don't believe in, that the God created us all. But, I mean, who knows? Nobody's really close to the answer to that. So that's my stance on these kinds of things. I know a lot of people in my comments are asking me about my astrology sign. If you want to know, I'm a Scorpio sun, Libra moon. I've read the descriptions. Sometimes I look at the horoscope because it's kind of funny, but I dislike people coming in the comments who say like, oh, I'm sure that your sign is this. And it's like, well, you're just guessing. And you might be right, but you might also be very wrong. And there is no... anything that you say could be right, you know? This isn't something that you can prove. So, yeah, that's my stance on astrology. But I do think that there are certain things that there is introverted intuition like around in the world, and it allows for certain patterns to be discovered that can lead to spiritual experiences. I find that like this kind of transcendence for INFPs is not the same as for INFJs, for example. It's, I think that we use this, or like the reason why we're interested in the meaning of life and all that, is because we want to access our emotions through them. And so we use our emotional sensitivity to get to a higher plane. But in the end, it's about the emotion and not as much about getting to the true truth of the universe. Though that is also exciting, it's not... I think that we want to unlock certain emotions inside ourselves, and that's why we use spirituality as a way to do so. My family isn't very religious, or at all. Nobody is religious in my family. my mother's side of the family has some Jewish connection that I'm not exactly. My cousins are Jewish. But I don't really know much about religion. I grew up in France, and the French school system is really into being secular. It's actually like a motto of French schools that it should be secular. And there has been a lot of controversial stuff about that, about like women who are Muslim who are not allowed to wear veils, that kind of thing. It's a very complex topic. I won't talk about it more, but there is this tradition in France that things need to be secular. So at school, unless you're going to a religious school, there isn't a class on religions. You learn a little bit about it when you learn about the antiquity, about the Romans and the ancient Egypt and all that, and how the first medieval cities were built and such. But you don't go into details about the Bible or the Quran or any other sacred texts. So I've been pretty disconnected from the religion all my life. So I'm sure that there are INFPs out there who have grown up in a religious culture and who are very in tune with that part of them. I'm kind of against all organized religion. So I won't join any religion or cult. But I do see how some INFPs, if it's something that they've grown up with, they'll stick to it. We do have SI, and I think that our introverted feeling can get really attached to certain things. With that, all that said, I wanted to talk about the spiritual experiences that I have had. One of them is when I met my ISFJ best friend. That video is one of the earliest on the channel, where I talked about how I had a synesthesia connection with him, and where I could actually see that something had happened in his life through my synesthesia. And I don't think that it's something that's a very spiritual connection, but it kind of is, that I could see that he was feeling grief without him actually showing grief. And I could see it as a dark brown spot in his aura, because I don't see auras, but I associate people with colors, and he's dark green, if you want to know. And I could see that there was a dark spot. There was like a light blue sky kind of that was mixed in, but there was like that brown spot, like kind of watercolors. And it ends up that his dad had died the year before, and it was a really touching experience, and I really connected very deeply with my friend on that, and that's how we became best friends. So I felt I got a really deep connection there, and I felt like, wow, what are the odds that you find such a person? And I'm still friends with this person 9 years later. That's pretty amazing. So I think that spiritual connections do exist. I don't know if this is soulmate or whatever, but something exists. That was spiritual connection number 1. Spiritual connection number 2 is when I was around 11 or 12, something like that. There was a culture festival in Stockholm, and my parents took me there, and there was a lot of activities around the town. They have this every summer. And there was a stand where there was this woman who was planting people in like this big pot. And for children, she would make them walk around the pot, and she would like tell them that they would grow into great trees and all of that. So my brother, who was maybe around 3 at a time or something, he got like to say, oh, that he wanted to become this kind of tree, and she would make him draw a tree, and then she would make him, yeah, like imagine that he was a tree and that he was growing into a good person, you know, a great tree. But so I expected that when it was come my turn, since I was a kid, that I would get the same treatment that I was 12. That I would, like, I had already prepared the tree that I would grow into and all that, but that wasn't, I got the adult version of this. And so she made me like wash my feet. Like, it was this ritual. It was really weird. I don't know what was the point of all this, if this person actually believes spiritually in something. It just felt very real to me. Maybe it was all a game, I have no idea. But so you had to go barefoot, and then she would like you would wash your feet, and then you would dry them, and then you would circle around the pot. There was a huge pot, and then she would help you into the pot, and she would cover your feet in earth. And we were like in a little tent in the middle of Stockholm, so we were on one of the islands that Stockholm is built out of. I highly recommend visiting Stockholm. It's a beautiful city. And Stockholm is my home. It's I did not live there for the first 18 years of my life, but it's where I feel a connection. And so she made me close my eyes. I was standing in the pot with my feet barefoot in this earth, and it was just very nice. And she started this kind of mantra, this kind of meditation. I never done a meditation before. I was 12, you know? So, and I've always sucked at meditation. But she was telling me basically that I had to imagine that my feet were growing roots, and I was going deep, deep down into like everything that I'd been through and everything that I was going to go through, and that I was a part of everything, that I, through my roots, I could see all of the people that I had ever met that had given something to me, and that everything was coming rushing back to me. All of the roots were connected to the deep earth, and this city is where I am right now, and I was feeling really grounded, like literally. We are there in this city, which is my hometown, which is everything of who I am is encompassed. I've created these roots, I've created all of this, and this is my life. That was kind of the meditation, how it went. And in the middle of the meditation, I had my eyes closed. She put her hand on my chest, and I literally like jumped because I was so entranced by this whole thing. And when she made me open my eyes, she said, "Here we are. You have your whole life in front of you. We are in the city, and you, with your roots, with everything that you are, you can build your life." And I'm getting emotional thinking about this. I mean, I was so young and impressionable, you know? But it felt like, well, first of all, this person was really nice, really believed in me, even though this is the first time we met. And it seemed like she did personalize these mantras for every person. And she did this for free as well. Like, she wasn't predicting my destiny or anything. She was just like putting me on the right track. And she was like planting this seed inside that the world, I could be wonderful. I could have this great life. I could be part of the world. And I know it's hard for INFPs to feel like they're part of the world. And to feel that everything you've ever been, everything you will ever be, is you, and you are living this life, you know? I thought that was wonderful. And she only came that one time to that festival. I never saw this person again, but it really helped. It really helped me. I'll always remember that. And so that was spiritual experience number 2. Spiritual experience number 3 is kind of a dark one. It was when I was 18. I went through an operation to fix my jaw because I had an overbite, and I had braces for 8 years, and so it was kind of plastic surgery basically to fix my teeth once for all, and everything went well during the actual operation, but then well, actually, the first time I was supposed to do the operation, I got a fever, which I maybe should have taken as a warning that, but you know, I thought, ugh, let's not be superstitious, you know? But, so when I actually did the operation, I was fine, but a week later, I coughed up. I basically vomited blood. And I did so 4 times after that. It was several days. Every few days I would just vomit up blood, and it was really gross. And at that time I'd already decided that I'd start medical school, but I think that this is what cemented my idea of going to medical school. And at that time I was suicidal. It wasn't like I wanted to do something, but I just didn't feel like life was worth living. And it was kind of like a near-death experience in the way that I was I lost a lot of blood, and I was feeling really lightheaded and really strange. And the last time, the 4th time that this happened, and every time we would go to the emergency room, and every time they would say, they'd look into my mouth and try to figure out where the blood come from, but since it was inside my cheek, they could not see it, so they had to do a scan to see that I was losing a lot of blood from an exploded artery in my cheek. And so it was only the 4th time, so it kept repatching itself, and then I was okay for a few days, and then I would in the middle of the night, I was sleeping in the same room as my brother, who was 8 at the time, I guess. So it must have been a little bit traumatizing for him too, but I had to wake him up in the middle of me throwing up blood. I had to say we need to go to the hospital. And they figured it out. I got to go to an operation to put a little metal coil inside the artery. Really interesting stuff. It kind of cemented the idea that I liked medicine, because I kind of found all this stuff kind of interesting, instead of finding it just gross. But I was lying down on the floor, because it was like, oh, I was too dizzy to stand up. And I was like, oh, you know, on the floor it's cool and I don't need to think, you know. And I was thinking, oh, might as well die now, you know. My dad took me to the hospital, and then when I was in the hospital and I was getting better after this operation number 2, basically, to fix the problem that the first operation had caused, I was lying in bed like always, and I was feeling rotten because it was, I was very close to my parents, and I was alone, and basically since I was 18, oh, well, I wasn't 18 actually, I was 17, but because there was no space in the children's hospital, I got to go to the adult hospital. That's not really fun when you're 17, you know, all sorts of gross things going on. So I had a lot of time to think between the times that I was sleeping. And I realized that somehow my cells are all working to keep me alive. So I need to figure out a way to stay alive, you know? And I couldn't just go out into this warm or cool or whatever, this very cozy feeling of falling asleep and dying. I had to stay alive. And I actually, like, when I fell asleep that night that I was thinking of that, I woke up and the next day I felt like, oh, I can actually stand up. I can sit up. I mean, I was so bad I couldn't even sit up. I felt like I could, that everything seemed simple, you know? My cells want me to live. They're actively fighting against my will to keep me alive. So I might as well stay alive for them, you know? It's a weird way to think, but that's how I was getting through that. Because, I mean, it was pretty traumatizing for a 17-year-old to have to go through that. You know, I couldn't pee on my own. I had to get an assistant to, and all of that. It was just really difficult. But I realized that there was a will to live somewhere inside me. And it was actually all of me that wanted to live. I don't know if this counts as a spiritual experience, but I just felt like I had so much more strength after that. And because I almost died, and I felt how it felt great to like just fall asleep. And when I received blood, it was amazing, the energy that you get back when you get a blood transfusion. I got several blood transfusions. And it was literally like I could see the flow of life coming into my veins and into my body. And it might just be the fact that I got more energy physically, but it felt like a spiritual experience. It felt like I was regaining life, like a vampire. I was like sucking out, eating the peach of life, you know, straight from the fruit, you know. I felt like I could, like I was really tasting the juice of life once I came out of that hospital. Of course, I was still very weak and I lost a lot of weight, and since I'm already skinny, it was I was like severely underweight and I wasn't feeling great. But I got this experience and I was like, yes, I'm always uncertain about becoming a doctor, even now that I am a doctor. But I realized, like, this is such an amazing thing, that you can make people feel good and heal them. And I felt like I could literally feel the healing fix me. It was an amazing experience. It was a terrible experience, but it was also beautiful. And I think that would count as a spiritual experience. Okay, now I'll end this video before it gets too long. There are a lot of INFPs out there who have better stories to tell, but those are my the 3 spiritual experiences that have affected me long term in my life, and where I felt like maybe it's not a God that's out there, maybe it's not something, but there is some kind of energy, some things that are not explained just by science, that give you the will to live, and that are like beauty itself. And so that is, with that I'll end this video. Tell me if you have any spiritual experiences. I'd be happy to hear. Yeah, and have a great day, everybody. Bye.